And take it away.
We're going to get stuck into a Claude Code, and the IDE we're going to be using is Cursor. The first thing, we see the word code, and for the less technical of us, that kind of can be a little bit scary. But when we use Claude Code, you don't just have to use it for applications or building software. You can use it to help run your business, to create proposals. But the use case that we're going to go through today is go and create a landing page that interface with Airtable. So Airtable is a cross between a spreadsheet and a database. It's used by many companies. I'm a big fan of it. And you've got other systems like a Go High Level, and they have a similar sort of building blocks. So we'll be using Airtable. Which approach we go? I'm going to go with the Airtable route before going into the landing page, but I could have equally gone the other way. So let me just go that way. And I haven't done too much preparation, and the reason I haven't done it is because I do want to run into issues, and I want to show you what I do when I encounter them, really. So it's really just off the cuff. It's a real build, or how I would use it. I'll close the cross again. So all I've done, I've gone into Airtable and I've clicked the create base, and a base is just like a database. Okay, it's created that base for me, and I've named it demo leads. Okay, so I've done nothing else at all. Okay, that's all I've done. It's an empty base and it has one table called table one, and it's just got the default columns that got created with it. So you can go via your account. You can go and create some tokens, and I'll just jump to that screen here. So what these personal access tokens are for, I'm going to keep it in layman's terms, okay, there's basically your way in to your Airtable account. Okay, you need to just be passing your password or Google credentials. It allows you to connect to Airtable. So I'm going to create a token. Okay, I'm just going to call it demo leads, and I'll put in Opal. So when you're creating this, what we can go is click in add scope, right? And what I'm going to do, so the scope is really saying, well, what access do we want to give this token? And we can give it access to my entire Airtable account, which may contain 10, 20 databases, but I don't want to do that. I want to give it just access to the base that we've created. But not just that, I'm going to say I want to be able to read data. I want to be able to write data. And what I mean by that is I can read records from the base, so maybe leads or prospects, and I can actually go and create them. But the other thing that's quite important is these two down here. These are called schemas. So this allows me to read the definition of the tables, the views, but more importantly, what it does, it allows me to go and create a table, okay? So now I've decided that this is basically saying the scope of what I can do, and I need to go and add the base, okay? Let's have a look here. Okay, so I think we got the demo leads. I think this is the one here.
I think so.
Yeah, so I need to move this a little bit, and I'm going to create the token, okay? So I'm going to copy this token. So this token has two parts. You can see this bit here, and the second bit's more of it's like the secret, if you like. And you don't want to be sharing this token. I'm going to delete it at the end. I'll actually end up deleting the entire database. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it there just in case I lose it. Okay, so where we've got to, we've created the base, yeah, like our container. We've got the token to get in. So I'm going to jump into Cursor. But before I do, I want to go into Windows Explorer, and I've created a empty folder. You can see here.
Is this kind of like a project folder?
It is, yeah. So it's as simple as that. Quite often people use the naming convention source or src or dev as a parent folder, and we just go and create a folder, which is really ideally be your project name. And what we'll find is as we're building a Claude Code application, or just an application, or whatever we're doing, all the files will get generated in here, okay? So simple as that. Then I'm going to go into Cursor. As I say, this is my chosen IDE. You may be using Claude Desktop, Google Anti-Gravity, or Visual Studio Code. And what we can see is that this folder is present, but if I wanted to change it to a different project, I would just go File, Open Folder, and I would just browse to a different folder. Okay, and it's as simple as that. That's how you open your project. Okay.
Cool.
So what I'm going to do now is go like this. Is right. So I'm using something called Whisperflow, which is text to speech translation. So I'll be speaking a little bit, and you'll be seeing text appear in the edit box down the bottom. Okay, what I'm looking to do, I want to create a table that will capture leads for my business. The business is voice agents, selling voice agents services. So if you can go and create a table, not so much a table, I just want to know what structure would be good. Tell me what fields we should track for leads. So I'm just going to click stop.
Do you just use that whisper flow mainly to just brain scattered thoughts and then it cleans everything up?
Yeah, that's right. I'm a big fan of it. There are lots of other competitors or tools out there, but it kind of corrects your English, your mumblings, and puts in bullet points and stuff. So
Yeah.
even though you can go and create one of these yourself now, I think it is worth it, kind of thing.
Cool.
All right. So it's gone and said, these are I guess, the columns we're going to capture. Yeah. And it's come and said, okay, this is what we're going to qualify on. And what we're saying is the lead status then, like we have drop-down boxes, you can select different statuses. It's coming up with all this kind of stuff. And it's come up with quite a lot, actually, perhaps a little bit more than I need, but that's okay. So what I might say is, I think at this stage, I just want something a bit simpler. So I'm happy with the contact basics, just that, and perhaps one extra field called status. So I click stop. Okay. It says, want me to create this in Airtable? If yes, let me know whether to add it to an existing base. Now, why did it know about Airtable? I'm not entirely sure. This is a fresh project. It might be that it knows I got other things, but let's say it didn't come up with that. Okay. What I would say then is, yes, I want you to create a table in my Airtable base. Shall I provide you with a token? I have the token. Okay. So I'm going to stop this now. But so before I click stop, what it's prompted me up with here is it's saying, do you want to take this action? And it's saying, I've got MCP configured to Airtable, and I don't really want to be going down that route for the purpose of this demonstration. So MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, and it's a way to communicate with applications and data sources. Again, a bit technically, but it opens up your APIs and puts wrappers around them. So I'll just select no, cancel to that, but no. So really what I'm doing, I'm changing the plan. Can I put that there?
Oh, you can just hit hide on that if you want to.
Can I? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. Cool. All right. So we'll go to MCP. So you will need to do this the first time you go in because you probably don't have any MCP servers configured. So if I go like that, it's listing all the different MCPs that I have, right? Now, I'm going to
You've done that beforehand is what you're saying. You've already
it
made those
is, yeah.
decisions.
And I'm not saying that's always the best case to put MCP configuration in. When you do start putting MCP in, it does use a bit of context, or a little bit more than you think. So there's a general school of thought where a lot of people are moving away from MCPs, not entirely, but they're using it and they're looking at just the key functions and they're wrapping them up in Claude skills. MCPs are good, but just know when to use them. So I'm going to disable that. Okay, so I've disabled that connection, and I think in Claude Code, where you're able to connect to different applications behind the scenes, you've got MCPs in place there. So I'm going to say no. I've disabled the MCP. I want to go down just the other route, which is me providing you with a token from Airtable. So what it's saying here is, it's saying, hey, Ben, if you give me a token here, that's not a good idea because these messages are going back and forth through the cloud and that token could get exposed, okay? So Claude's been good. It's taking care of
It's got security at the top of its mind.
It does, yeah. But just remember, it does make mistakes and you're accountable. And that's a big part of AI fluency and what we should be considering when we're interacting with any AI tool. So what it's done is gone and created these files, okay? I'm not going to go through them all, but we'll just look at the first one, the .env. Now, I'm going to put in the Airtable token here. I'm just going to paste it in, okay?
So this is a really cool use case for why you would use an IDE, right? Cursor, where you can open the file in your workspace. Claude Code's still open. You just open the file and you're just hard coding in that token right there. Is that like a really good use case for?
That's right, but there is, we've got to think about what other opportunities are there out there. So with CoWork, for instance, there is an Airtable plugin. So you could be doing a lot of this perhaps through CoWork, but you've got to think a lot of applications don't have those MCP wrappers, and you can go down this route. But sometimes what you find is you will hit a bit of a wall in CoWork or Claude Desktop. But it's good to know, like, all three products, Chat, CoWork, and Claude Code. So I don't think Claude Code is perhaps as technical as people think it might be. I know we're looking with security tokens and so forth, but I'm going to go back to my Airtable base, all right? So if I go back here, now I can get this in a different way, but behind the scenes, what we've got is this first identifier is the base. Okay, so this is the demo leads base. This is the table, which is this table, and that's the view. What I wanted to have access to the base or to the database, yeah? So it's going to have access to the demo leads database, not everything in my account. So if I go back then, where do I go back to? So it's just here. So I'm going to put that in there. Now this used to get me a little bit. I'd start prompting away and it wouldn't do its thing. You've got to save this. This hasn't been saved yet. So I'm just clicking Control. Yeah. So that's my rookie tip, if you like.
Good to know.
All right. Awesome. So we have that. So this git ignore, what this can git ignore, if I jump to it, it's basically saying there's certain files I want to ignore when I publish it to a version control system. Okay, so if we publish this to GitHub, and we'll get onto GitHub later, you don't want these some files going up into the cloud. Okay, so this file is controlling, your really key files not going to the cloud. And you may want to do it with other files as well, such as Word documents or PDF documents or even particular folders.
That makes sense. So really quick question, just for people watching this who might not be familiar with GitHub. Can I, correct me if I'm wrong, but at a really high level, from a maybe beginner's perspective, maybe you could view GitHub as your cloud storage, like a Google Drive for your coding projects. That's good?
That's exactly it. Yeah. So just imagine you're in Google Drive or OneDrive. Just see it as a repository for all your folders and files. But what you're able to do is see the previous versions. Yeah. As we normally work on documents, we may go add a suffix version 1, version 2, version 3. But you don't do that with your code. It just stays, the file name stays the same, but you're able to go back to earlier versions. Okay. And the reason it's very important, especially when you've got multiple people working on a project at the same time, you don't want to alter the core. You can go off left and introduce changes. But what I find, I've done it a little bit before technically, and it just makes it so easy through Claude Code. You don't really need to know the commands. Again, you're describing what to do as opposed to writing any code. So we've got this information, okay? And what I'm going to do here then, I'm going to say, what I want you to do now is go and create the table called leads. And I want you to use the fields that you came up with before.
Now, what is this that it's asking us?
Yeah, okay, so what this is then, it's saying, will you allow Claude to execute these commands? And I can say yes for this particular command, or I can say yes for all of these bash commands. So bash is running the terminal behind the scenes. So I'm just going to select yes to all. So what it's doing, it's going and creating and reading files on our hard drive, but it's also running. So here it needs to run a script to read the Airtable base. So it needs to create the script. So I'm just going to select yes. What I tend to do, I wouldn't recommend doing this when you get started, and you won't see it, you can enable a feature called bypass permissions. And what that does, it just lets, some people say, let Claude live dangerously, and it goes off and pretty much does everything. But you only really want to do that when you become a bit comfortable. So it's gone and done its thing, right? Now, if I go to here and I refresh this, oh, I could have, I already saw it.
Oh yeah, there it is.
But it's created the table. Yeah, yeah, it's gone and created the table, and we can see that here with the different columns. Yeah, let me just get rid of that.
Very cool.
Now, what's even cooler about it is it's gone and created the data type. So that is of type phone. That is a link. If we had a drop-down box, which we do, with status, right? I go edit field. I can see the different statuses here. Do you see?
Wow, it already plugged those in. That's very cool.
Yeah. You can say, hey, what I want is each time a record is created, it defaults the status to connected. Yeah, it sets it to deconnected. So I can do that through this interface, or I can do everything through Cursor or Claude Code. Yeah. All right. So let's go back to Cursor. Now, I want some dummy data. Okay. All right. So what I'd like you to do is populate that table with 8 records, please. Okay. So if I'm going to here. Okay. So let's have a look at what we've got here. Okay. So it said it's gone and created the records. We'll have a look to see if it's gone and created all those records. Do you see?
Very fast. That's awesome.
Pretty cool. All right. So I'm going back to Cursor. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to start on the landing page, okay, and we'll see how it goes. But before I do that, it's got edit automatically. I'm going to change this to plan mode, okay? So what we're doing is rather than say, hey, follow my instruction and implement, now come up with a plan. I'll review the plan. If I'm happy with it, we'll go and implement it, okay? So I'm going to go like this. All right, so what I'd like you to do is go create a landing page for me. So I run a voice agent business and specialize in voice agents for plumbers. So I'm thinking maybe 5 tab pages. That would be great. And yeah, that's it. Okay, so I'm going to just execute that. Okay, I'm just saying, yeah, I just asking Claude to run that command. Okay, so this is going to take a little bit of some time. So I'm just going to talk around a few other things so we can see that these files have been generated. Yeah, you're going back and forth here with a chat. You're not going to see me writing any code or anything like that. We've got, these are commands, okay, and we won't go into this in this session, but just know that if you put slash, you may, or we will look at one. We'll look at the one which is called /init, and that initializes things. All right, so it's still doing the plan. It's saying, it's asking a number of questions. I can say, okay, do I want 5 separate pages? I could say no. What tech stack do you want? Look, I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna say other. Look, I want, for the sake of this demo, and it won't look quite as good, but it'll be quicker. I want a pretty simple tech stack because I just want it, because I'm in a demo at the moment and I need to build it pretty quickly. Yeah, please choose or recommend. Okay, so let's press enter. Okay, I'm just going to go via the, yeah, how are we going to do this? Yeah, so just going to select by the recommended approach. Yeah, we could have gone down, make Zapier N8N to integrate back and forth, get the Airtable speaking to this landing page, but that's overkill in my eyes. Okay.
So really, most of your, like 95% of your time is really just in this chat. It goes off and does its thing. It might get back to you. And I really like how Claude Code gives you like multiple choice recommendations. Like here's what I
Yes.
recommend, here are some other options, or type in other. That makes my
Yeah.
life super easy. And it's
Yeah.
easy to follow along with what it needs from me instead of having to pick out those questions in the long thread.
Yeah.
Very convenient. That's cool.
Yes, and you're right. It is 95% just chatting away back and forth, and that's why I highly recommend. I can use the voice here. I didn't have to have purchased a Whisper Flow, but Whisper Flow is next level.
It
It
is.
corrects things. It's got a dictionary and all that kind of stuff.
So in what model are we using right now? With Claude Code,
Yeah.
you're able to use really, I guess, any of their available models. I think the go-to that everyone uses now is Opus 4.7 for heavier tasks, and is it Sonnet 4.6 or maybe lightweight tasks?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So getting to understand the models is pretty important, and probably with this functionality, it's not really complicated. So I do use Opus, probably even though Opus 4.7 has come out, I'm still using Opus 4.6 most of the time because I know it uses 10 to 20% less tokens.
Yep.
But it depends what plan you're on as well. I am on the max plan, but yeah, just imagine you've got 3 employees working for you. Which one would you choose for a particular task? Would you just give the most experienced and smartest one who gets paid the most all tasks? No, probably not. And that's the way you need to think about it. So just a simple do the maths between, I'm going to select auto accept, sorry, do the maths. So I could have reviewed the plan and changed the plan. I said, no, just go ahead and do your thing. But Opus 4.6 uses 67% more tokens than Sonnet 4.6. Okay, so if you're on the Pro plan, which is $20 a month or whatever it is, you're going to be using 67% more tokens than the Sonnet 4.6.
Is this
So
living dangerously, that mode?
yeah, that's some people refer
Or
to
what
living
people refer to?
yeah, living dangerously, God mode or whatever.
It's a very low risk task, like what we're building out, just this landing page.
Oh,
It's not any
sure,
super
sure.
sensitive base. So
No, no,
yeah,
but yeah, more higher risk. So what I did the other day, when I download lots of things, I put them in my downloads folder, and then I just move them into a subfolder called old, and then I just ask Claude to go and reorganize all my files in that folder and categorize them and do your thing. And it did it. It organized all my files. But let's say you go a step further and you start saying delete this, delete that, and it goes beyond outside of where it should be, then you don't want to delete, really
risky.
important files. So,
Yeah.
and that's, I guess, my get out of jail. That's not the advice I'm giving here. I'd say don't start with that and take it on when you're ready. But that's where you will be, because what will happen is that you can come up with a really good plan, and then you review the plan, you're ready to go. What you don't want to be doing is acknowledging each pop-up menu every 2 or 3 minutes. You want to select OK.
I want to
You can
go
go
cook
away.
dinner. I want to go grab a bite to eat and come back and it's still working.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want to do. You can go away for an hour and come back. This is going to take a little bit of some time. So what I want to do is just jump to, whoops, yeah, something like, all right. So this is Claude's official training site. So I recommend people have a bit of a look here. And in particular, have a look at the Claude Code 101 course. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to go through a few things whilst we're waiting for Claude to do its thing. Just quickly check. I can see it's going to go through. May take 10 minutes. Yeah, so give it a go. So as I'm going through the Claude 101 course, I'll just point out a few things. So it talks about the agentic loop. Okay, so you've seen me enter a prompt into Claude. Claude gathered the text, the information. Yeah, it went and took action. Yeah, but I also said when I was happy for Claude to take action. Yeah, it verifies the results of the prompt. Yeah, and it waits for my response, and then I give it another prompt, and we go through this iterative loop. We're going back and forth with Claude, just like you would with a colleague. Yeah, we hear about AI agents hallucinating, and they do, but often the primary reason is because you haven't given it enough context. Yeah, you haven't given it what it needs to know. Yeah. Now we're talking about the context and the context window. So with the new models, they now have a 1 million token context limit, but don't take it that you should be using that million tokens before you refresh your session. So when I'm talking about this token limit, I guess for me, it's like a working memory. Once it's used 1 million tokens, it can't proceed. It needs to compact the information and start again. But I reset it about 30% around to the 300,000 tokens. Okay. But just sometimes it'll be 70, 80%. But just bear that in mind. It is an important concept, context.
Really quick, this might be for a future video, so just let me know. But how can you tell where your context is sitting?
Yes,
what size, like what it's grown to?
Yes,
that's 30 messages deep. Is that pretty simple, or is that
It's pretty simple. Yeah, it's pretty simple. So if I put in slash context, I don't want to do it because it's going to interrupt this session.
Yeah,
and it may not interrupt it, but what it's going to come back with, it's going to tell me what my context is, what percentage, but it'll probably come back with 1 or 2 pages, and it'll tell me where it's all being used. If I got MCP loaded in, it'll give me all that. And what I've seen in the last 2 days, I think when it gets to a certain percentage, it appears here now.
Oh, that's nice.
And I think in Claude Desktop in the last 1 or 2 days, it's searched things. So it's going to become a bit more, transparent for sure. And it's really important when, if you're on the pro plan, because you will burn through your credits, it's understanding how to use it.
Fairly quickly. I can definitely attest to that. And it was one of the best decisions I made to bump up to the max plan. I did that 2 weeks ago. And it's just, I rarely hit my limit now.
No,
things that I'm building, it's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. I do say, if you can afford it, do it. For me, you've got to see it different to any other subscription that you have, because it's like having a staff member on your team, and $100 a month is not very much money, but that staff member is only going to be effective if you know how to direct Claude in what to do. But so $100 a month, it's a lot of money, but then it's not when you're really thinking about what it's able to do for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump back to here. So we talked about context. We're talking about, okay, so there's the tool, Claude execute tools, or most AI assistants execute tools. And we've seen that with voice agents, haven't we, Mason? Just how they execute the tools and knowing when to execute a tool. And again, the really important thing, just like skills as well, those tools or those skills need to be clearly defined. They need to have really good descriptions, because what it is that AI is non-deterministic, and for it to invoke the correct tool, it needs to have a clear description, and you don't want 2 tools which have got a similar description.
Yeah,
that's pretty important. So again, I think to become good with AI, you need to be organized. You need to think how to shape things, how to structure things, how to label things. Because what you end up doing, especially in Claude, you end up building layers and layers. And so when you're building solutions out, your framework or your building blocks become a lot more powerful, kind of thing. So let me see where we are now. I think it's going to still be taking a little while. Oh, it's getting there.
We're getting there.
I think we'll use up the time. We'll be good. All right. So that was and there's different options of installing Claude Code. I had a quick look. It does seem a little bit complicated, because the way they're giving you is these PowerShell sort of scripts and stuff like that, because you can install Claude Code in many environments, not just the IDEs I talked about. So if you look at your first prompt, you're seeing me go back and forth with Claude, with this landing page Airtable solution. You can equally work through this, and it talks about those questions that you were asking was around auto accept versus approval. So do I want to allow edits? Do I want to allow all edits for this session? Do I want to bypass permissions, live dangerously? Gets into plan mode, yeah. Now, often what I find myself is I forget about plan mode a little bit and I think, oh, it is good to plan. So I don't want to install that. So let me go, because I know it's done this before. All right, so it's honking now.
I love all those words. I feel like I've
someone
learned
was,
so many new words.
paid money to come up with about 130 words. That was their job.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It's going to be there for many years to come. All right, so jumping back to Claude Code 101 course. Yeah, I was mentioning about the plan, okay? And this is a real good way if you want to save your credits and you've only got a pro plan, and the pro plan's what I recommend. Start off with plan mode. Yeah, just keep going back and forth, getting the plan right. Yeah, once you're ready, then move into implementation. Okay, so you're gonna be really saving a lot of tokens, and you're going to be able to probably triple the output on your usage plan.
Can I ask a quick question on that really quick?
Yeah.
I just want to know your recommendation. Do you recommend planning out a project in just the Claude chat beforehand and coming up with the plan and prompts and stuff like that? Or do you recommend just diving into Claude Code and just doing it that way, planning out a project? Or does it depend?
I'm glad you asked that question. We're going to go on to the explore, plan, code, and commit. So have a bit of a read of this kind of thing. My preference would be do it in Claude Code. It doesn't matter too much, but what you're having to do, if you're doing it in the chat, you're having to copy and paste and do things like that. But if I go back to Claude Code, when I went slash, there's all these commands, and you can have your own command. So I've actually got a command which you don't see in this project, which is /plan. Okay, now the /plan is my way of planning. It's just really a prompt, if you like, and it tells you how to plan, and it iterates, through that. But let me just jump to see where we are now. Okay?
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
All right. So the dev server is probably not up. So if you ever run into an error, and I'm glad that happened, I'm just gonna, I put it in. I get really lazy these days, and I don't even say what the error is. I put dot. Okay.
It's a nice hack.
In a couple of months, I'm not going to do dot. I'm just going to go dot, but dot for the time being. Okay. But it knows to read that image right now. It said, right, I killed the test server. Hey, if you haven't played around with service stuff, don't worry about it. Claude will tell you what to do. So what it's really doing is it's just wanting to open up the web pages. Yeah. So it's basically saying I can type this now into the terminal. Right. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say, no, you do it. Okay. Give me different options. Okay.
Nice.
But what I could put in, we haven't talked about the Claude.md file yet, but I could put in things like, I'm pretty lazy. You always do these things. Do you know what I mean? Or so this is good. So what I'm going to do, I've got to remind myself about the Claude.md file. Do that next. So it's saying to reload the page. Okay. Okay.
There it is.
Pretty cool. All right. So let's go through this page. Now, I'm pretty impressed with this. I've said that a bit early. I'm saying that because I know a little bit what it's going to produce, because I did one practice of this yesterday, and it's gone through. It's explained what this is all about. Here's your homepage. This is about plumbing. This is about voice agents. The guys, and ladies, when they're doing their work, they can't really stop the work they're doing and take a phone call. So if a voice agent kicks in, it can look into their calendar, create another job. Anyway, we've got a number of different tab pages. We've got all the services here. I may go back and forth, say, look, I don't like the color. I don't like the color, or it's a bit too dark. I prefer a lighter theme and stuff like that. It's got the pricing models. Hey, we're going to charge you $300 per month, for a starter, or $600, $1,500. I can go back and forth and customize that to my pricing model. Now, if I go into book a demo, Okay, let me just click in. I want to see, I'm going to, it's a bit dark on my screen and I've got bright light here. So I'm just going to click send request. Okay, what's the biggest? I'm probably not used to get it. All right, so that's submitted it. So say we'll be in touch.
Hey, there it is.
Was he there? Oh yeah, so
That's cool.
I didn't have to refresh. So that guy's there. We didn't put in a number in there. We could have enforced that. Hey, that's pretty cool, isn't it? We, in less than an hour, not only that, we've gone and been installing software. If we didn't have to wait for some of that software, it would have been a bit quicker. But what I want to do, I want to finish a few things off before the end of this session. What I would do now is go /int, which is initialize, okay? So it's going through all of our files that it's gone and created. It's going through the project and it's coming up to define what the project's all about. And it creates this file. It's called CLAUDE.md. MD is a markdown file. And it's a bit like the brains of the project. And also it really helps with the context. So each time you start a new session, one of these sessions, yeah, it does load the CLAUDE.md file into memory, okay? So there's a bit of a trade-off. You don't want it too large, even though we've got now 1 million tokens to deal with or to use. It kind of says, okay, when I'm interacting with Claude and I ask a particular question, it knows where to go. So you don't need a Claude.md file, but it really helps, okay? So let's look at this, okay? So this is the Claude.md file, okay? Now, I think I can right-click. I can select, where is it? Let's get open preview. It's a bit easier to read. So it's going to create all this. Yeah. This is saying, this is what this project's about. Marketing site for Copperline, voice agents positioned for plumbing business, 5 static HTML pages. It will say, here's the architecture integrates with Airtable. Yeah. And
Nice.
so I think that's pretty neat. So sometimes what I do is when I open up a new session and I go through this process and I make modifications, I say go and update the Claude.md file for me, because I want this file to be updated with how the project's currently working. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people won't be doing it, but I think it's a really important skill or habit that you should be doing, is taking care of the Claude.md file, okay? Now, I just quickly want to go in and put /context. Okay.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so this is, so I've used 17% of my tokens, okay? Happy to keep on going. Look, in my other workspaces, I don't have all these MCP tools. I disabled the tools, okay? Yeah. And then this is saying how it's being used, sort of thing. So that's pretty good. So then at some point, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you don't lose all this information. So I would perhaps go, all right, I want to use GitHub. So this is a new project. We don't have a repo. Please tell me what are the steps that we need to go through. Don't do it for me. Tell me what the steps are. I think we'll save the full GitHub explanation for another kind of workshop. But yeah, it's basically saying, okay, this is what, it's pretty easy. It'll just guide you through the process. If you go and create a free GitHub account, then all these files get copied there. The git ignores that file, do you see?
So that way we're not pushing our secret APIs like tokens and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. So I just want to quickly summarize what we did then. So the 2 kind of projects, we opted for something that produced something technically. That was a landing page, and it also interfaced with MCP, with Airtable. So we got the integration going there. It created 5 pages for us. We could have chosen a different use case. So I just bring it back to a proposal document for a prospect, where you go and generate the Word document. You've got a template, and then you may feed in a call that you've had through Microsoft Teams or Fireflies. That conversation feeds through and it generates that document, and then you can literally email the client within 20-30 minutes after you've had a discovery call with them. So there are as many use cases around software related web pages, web apps, as there are software related. Just want to say it's not just for building websites or applications. So we did that. We had to deal with, was it a token? Yeah, we got the token through.
Yep.
And that allowed us to connect. We also acknowledged that a lot of this stuff could have been done through Claude Code, and I'm really not trying to say that this is better, it's different. And sometimes they work better together. So I'm not going into which one should you do, which one, is better. We went through and we iterated a lot, didn't we? You saw me going back and forth, just speaking to Claude. I wasn't getting hung up in getting my language perfect. It's not about that. I can say stop. I went into the planning phase, and you become comfortable. In the end, you want to become comfortable speaking to AI to do things. You need to know when to delegate a task, let AI do its thing, and you need to go, no, I'm going to do this bit, and then work together